Hello everyone, welcome to Hizmet Talks this week. I will be getting my guest in a minute, Behzad Fatmi, co-host, not a guest actually. So we'll be talking about the profiling issue in Turkey. But before doing that, I want to just make sure that everything works and yeah. Okay. Just to yeah. Welcome Behzad. We are finally live with all the technical difficulties that always is an issue when you are doing live stream. One day we'll do it in your program, in your YouTube channel, inshallah, and you'll see. How are you?
Thank you, Ismail. I'm fine. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, I'm fine as well. We haven't done this program last week because it was the first day of 3 months, the sacred 3 months in that comes before Ramadan, 2 months anyway, and it was an important day. We didn't want to proceed with the program, let's say. So here we go. We are gonna. What are we going to talk about this week?
So, as planned, we will be talking about profiling in Turkey. Also, something called FETOMETRE that has been introduced by this government in the aftermath of the coup attempt in 2016. So, yeah, I mean, this is a serious problem in Turkey. It also shows how undemocratic this government has become. So a few instances, I mean, profiling is something that, the governments are do against people or group of people who they do not approve of. And in Turkey, we have been seeing this happening since a very long time, and the AKP too is doing it right now. In fact, since its initial years, actually, the events in the aftermath of the July 15, 2016 events show that the AKP has also been doing it since a very long time against the Hizmet movement or the Gülen movement. So yeah, there are certain incidents, there are certain victims, certain people who have been purged from their jobs, and what happened to them actually proves that this practice has been going on in Turkey for a long time.
Yeah, I think one
we
can say it is not in a way only Gülenism, although we are going to talk about the Hizmet movement predominantly, but it's obvious that the government is profiling people according to their political views or religious perception or identity, or even at issues like Kurdish issue. They are also profiling people about their political or racial background. It's just, it's in a way a bit obvious in some cases that there is also subgroups have been profiled, like which religious denomination someone is adhering, or other stuff as well. Yeah.
Right, of course. I mean, yeah, I mean, in the aftermath of the coup attempt, of course, the Gülen movement has been the biggest victim of the crackdown against any group in Turkey. It's the Gülen movement that the AKP blamed for orchestrating the coup, of course, falsely. So we are mostly seeing such profiling in the case of the Gülen movement, people affiliated with the Gülen movement. But yes, it's not only the Gülen movement which is a victim of profiling in Turkey. It has been happening with other groups too, including the Kurdish people. And in fact, this is something that the AKP has been, when it came to power, it said that we will do away with such practices, we will bring rule of law in the country. We will bring democracy in the country. So in 1990s and 80s, 80s and 1990s, when uh, the Turkish state, there was serious discrimination against the Kurdish people at that time. The AKP, when it came to power, it said, we will not do such things. We do not approve of it, and we will not be continuing with such a practice. But unfortunately, after a few years of appreciable, commendable work in Turkey, the AKP also went down the same path, and it unfortunately adopted policies of its predecessors.
Yeah.
So it's still going on. Profiling is a big issue even now in Turkey. So maybe we can, look into certain instances, certain, cases in particular to prove our point. So the first one that I think is very important, and is the latest one, is the case of a police officer named Vedat Demir. He was one of the hostages with the PKK, and who has been recently killed after the Turkish military launched an attack in northern Iraq against a PKK camp. So in that incident, police officer Vedat Demir also lost his life, who was held by the PKK since 2015, if I'm not wrong. And now when he's dead, the government, the AKP government, is calling him and hailing him as a martyr. They're saying that he's a martyr who has been killed by the PKK terrorists. But interestingly, Vedat Demir was purged. He was also dismissed, suspended from his job in 2018 on the charges of being on the charges of orchestrating the coup and being a member of an armed terrorist group. So when he was it was suitable for the AKP to call him a terrorist, it called him a terrorist back in 2018. Now, when it suits them to call him a martyr, a shaheed, they're calling him a shaheed, and it simply it shows the hypocrisy of the government. So he's he's the latest perhaps person. It is the latest case in which we see that the AKP really has no particular agenda as such. It's simply working to consolidate its power and use whoever and whatever only to remain in power, however it could. So, unfortunately, it's still going on. So, Vedat Demir is one case. There are other cases too. Another police prosecutor, his name was Ahmed Picher. He was suspended after the coup attempt in 2016. But in fact, he actually died in May 2016. The coup attempt happened in July 2016, and he was suspended. But he had already died in the month of May that year, which shows that there wasn't any investigation, a thorough investigation against him. He was already profiled. The government already wanted to fire him, dismiss him from his job, and it used the incidents on the night of July 15, 2016 as an excuse to suspend him. So, this is what is happening, and it proves the point that the list of people who the government wanted to dismiss was already prepared. it wasn't prepared after the events on the night of July 15, 2016. The government already had that list. It only used the events of that night, the dreadful events of that night, to as an excuse to purge these people. So yeah, this is a reality. And on the other hand, there is another case of Gökhan Açıkgöl. He was a history teacher at a school in Istanbul. He was. It's a slightly different case. He was dismissed from his job. He was then arrested and tortured to death in Turkey. And after a few years, he was reinstated to his job. A letter was sent to his family saying that we were wrong in dismissing him from his job, and now we reinstate him to his job. But the fact is, he's already dead. The government, the police officers killed him by torturing him under custody. So these are the three cases, which shows how profiling was done in Turkey. The government already wanted to crack down against or punish a certain group of people, and it only used the events on the night of July 15, 2016 as an excuse to carry out its intentions.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm really having some difficulties technically today, so I couldn't contribute enough, and somehow my screen is, not right. People see me half, and I don't know why exactly it's happened, but we can still probably continue in this way. I think profiling in that sense, as you gave the Gökhan Açıkgöl and the other examples that suggest that people are actually persecuted and punished for their perceived affiliations based on previous work, even before any crime committed or anything. And then even when they are acquitted of all the crimes, the damage has already been done. And similar things also happens to other political dissidents, like for instance the Yüksel direnişçileri or others, like they have already been identified as political dissident and have been punished for not based on any crime but actually based on their perceived political position. I mean, and Vedat's latest example is quite striking, because he was abducted by PKK before the coup attempt as a police officer, and after the coup attempt, obviously his name was probably mentioned somewhere as a Gülenist or a Hizmet movement member, so he was dismissed, although he was a hostage with the terrorists at that time. And then when he was killed in action, or when he was killed during the operation, this time he was honored with the martyrdom, because the president's own press secretary hailed him as a martyr, and then people actually reminded him that no, actually you have dismissed him whilst he was abducted by the PKK, and now you are hailing him as a hero, as a martyr, and that is simply double standards. And that shows that actually there is the work of profiling is preceding any crime or even the coup attempt. It was done before. They were trying to get who is Gülenist and who is politically affiliated with who. And recently I think we are seeing that people affiliated with the Alevite sect in Turkey have been profiled, so their houses have been marked in various cities, and it's going on during the Erdogan's regime, which is supposed to bring development and justice as it claims.
Mm-hmm. And also another important point here to mention is the fact that the AKP also used the Presidency of Religious Affairs to profile people, not only in Turkey but also abroad. There have been instances where imams sent by Diyanet to mosques in Germany, Netherlands, and other Western European countries. They profiled the congregation, the people attending their congregation, coming to the mosque to pray. So imams, unfortunately, acted as agents uh, of a political party. And what could be more shameful than this? I think, you people who are supposed to uplift people's spirituality, empower them spiritually, are actually using their position to do political profiling, and therefore a lot of mosques and imams also in recent years have been sent back to Turkey. The host countries took action against them and they sent them back. So this is another very, very shameful fact that is happening in Turkey.
Uh, I want to show something as we speak, but again, it's all messed up at the moment. But according to like the way the profiling is a bit complicated and developed system in Turkey, because now they actually not only profile people like just from the police work, they actually can profile people with the. Sorry, I'm just trying to fix something as we speak as well. Shouldn't be doing this by now, but anyway. So, and I don't know why it doesn't pick up the page changes in here, but normally I was trying to reflect it on the screen as well. There is something called FETOMETRE this week. It came to light again, but it actually emerged a couple of years ago. According to this, there is like 72 main parameters and 256 sub parameters that gives you a small point in each parameter, and based on the final number you got, you can be considered as a Hizmet movement member. According to that metering section, you can actually be considered as Gülenist. But I don't know why you can't see that. I'm just trying to refresh that, but somehow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and while you do that, perhaps we can talk about the latest interview that you were referring to. Military officer GIG in that interview mentioned that it's a practice in Turkey to send gold bracelet to the bride's family, and if you don't do it, it shows that you are of the Hizmet movement or you are a member of the FETO. So that is a criteria. That is one of the criteria that you were talking about in the FETOMETRE. It's really mind blowing, difficult to comprehend.
Yeah.
That
Yes.
how a government or state can function based on these parameters.
Yeah. Apparently, this is an admiral who created this. I managed to reflect it on the screen. Soon I'll have to upgrade this equipment because it's not coping with my needs now. So, for instance, there are one big criteria in there is that whether he's got any relatives within the movement. So if there is any first degree relatives like wife, mother, father, children, that's sort of a first degree. That's a big point. So for instance, within a family, if someone gets a relative identified as Gülenist, everyone else had their points notched up, 0.5 or something. And then if there is a second degree, like for any sibling or any cousin and stuff, or if any other relative, they give a smaller point to the candidate, let's say. And if there is any other information that seems relevant, that can bring you to a point where your personal life indicates that 0.7 you are a Gülenist, yeah. But it has to add up to 1 or 2, something like that. There is a point-based system. Then, for instance, then they ask about information from his own workforce, wherever he's working, information from his other workplaces before, mostly government works and stuff, and this puts him in, gives him other positions. And then whether he has ever used Bylock or any other apps that have been affiliated with the movement, or then the next one is whether any of his relatives have apps, again, first degree, second degree, third degree relatives and stuff. And it goes on further, like there are so many criterias in there. For instance, whether they have any membership to Bankasya, whether they have any other incidents in the past, sometimes about their education, for instance, whether they are successful, whether they know foreign language. Apparently, if you are successful, if you do a degree, a master's degree or a PhD degree above your normal degree, that goes against you, because Gülenists are being successful, apparently knowing other languages often and getting master degrees in like, or PhDs in different places. And then they have so many others criteria. I think one of them was about one's personal life. Apparently, if somehow you have not, or you have a, let's say, disabled child, which was perhaps, if it was known before the birth that you will have a disabled child, and you didn't go with the abortion option. That is a point, because Gülen are Islamic Muslim, so they would see it as part of their faith and test, so they would accept a child being disabled. So if someone has a child born disabled and they are caring for that, that may show that they have a religious background where they accept that it might be the case. So that sort of stuff. And most recently, the program that last week with Cüneyt Özdemir, where he was explaining about the marriage, how the marriage took place. For instance, whether the officer in question has marriage based on Turkish traditions, or whether there is, some of them are missing. For instance, he says that the assumption is that they marry within the movement, so there isn't like obvious procedures of like being fiancé, having this option. Even he was giving a joke. I think it's taken out of context, but it's showing how serious this is. That Cihat Yaycı says that, for instance, in Anatolia, in one of the Eids, the groom would send a ram to the bride's house with a golden ring on its horn, sort of, and they would have a picture of it. So we ask candidates to provide that sort of cultural traditions and their pictures to prove that it is an organic marriage. So if you fail to take pictures, if you fail
I
to...
wonder if Cihat Yaycı himself has a photograph like that, but anyway, that's it.
Yeah. That's the other thing. I think that there is this other question, isn't it? Cihat Yaycı, how he would have this much extensive information. There is a lot of question that he himself was involved with the movement, apparently, but somehow maybe his involvement was some sort of a fact-finding mission within the movement. But anyway, so there is a very detailed, very, very scary in the sense that it's quite it's quite Hitler Germany kind of a precision to define who
And it,
is Gulenist.
yeah, and it's also very ironic that having highly qualified, being highly educated is problematic for them. It also is a criteria which makes you a member of the armed terrorist group. Also, being a uh, ethically ethical person, morally sound person also makes you so. Also, in case you are a businessman and you there are few or almost negligible instances of corruption in your business, that also makes you so. This happened in the case of Akinepik, I believe, and it was it was shown as a reason why he is a member, that his business, there was no instances of corruption or any
Financial misconduct, yeah.
financial misconduct actually. Yeah.
And that
So
was an evidence that if you are obeying the rules to the letter,
mhm,
that means like if you're not skimming any money or doing
mhm,
any fraud, you might be a Gulenist as well. Yeah, that was used against him. That's true.
right. And also, it is important to mention here that being having an account in Bank Asia or working or studying in a Hizmet affiliated schools or universities also make you a member uh, of the armed terrorist organization, so called there. So I I really wonder, when I was in Turkey, I was at Mevlana University. I had a few friends who were ardent supporters of the government, and due to my writings and commentaries, they used to actually criticize me, lambast at me, for saying that you this isn't right, and you are saying, oh, this is all lies against the government. But the thing is, they were students and colleagues, people working at Hizmet institutions who had nothing to do with the Hizmet movement, and they were sympathizers of the president. Some of them were also members of the AKP, and despite that, anybody even loosely affiliated with any of Hizmet institutions have been labeled as a member of Hizmet. So it is, I really wonder, I think of those people who were there, who used to criticize me for my writing, saying that, you cannot say it, but unfortunately they themselves have become a member of FETO today.
Yeah,
Uh,
because the system, you see, I shared another picture. Now it says 72 main criteria and 253 different criteria. And we have done a Turkish program with Adem Yavuz Aslan. I think you need, let's say, to reach 2 points, but half a point, sorry, a full point goes if you're first degree relative. So, for instance, you happen to subscribe something or use the bank for an ease of using whatever. You had a couple of points, let's say, and let's say one of your relatives found to be like a distant relative is Gulenist, so you get, let's say, 0.5. There it pushes you over the limit and you become Gulenist. So then automatically what it makes is like an unending cycle. Then you become a point in other people's on your relatives let's say credentials as you're joining. If they are first degree, all of your brothers have got 1 point. If it is second degree, that's 0.75. If it's third degree, it's 0.5. So it affects. Then if they have another cousin, let's say, so there is two cousins that are from Hizmet movement, then all of his relatives should be sacked, because what happened is this started as a criteria that used to determine who is Gulenist in the Marine Force, where Cihat Yaycı was working, and then now it used initially in other forces, and now in other criteria, and people are effectively using this as a way of determining who is Gulenist. So there is no crime. You may not necessarily commit a crime based on the points you get out of these 253 criterias. If it is above 2 full points, they're like really little points adds up to 2, but really big ones adds up if any of your relatives are affiliated and everything. And then you find yourself, and because of you, your relatives find themselves in a trouble. And one of the issues in here is that the way they actually defend this genocidal, in a way, classification, like the way of the almost so scientific and precise measurement of determining who is Gulenist and should be persecuted and who is not Gulenist, not necessarily. So for instance, some of the criteria, if you don't have any of them, it might be still used against you because you might be really crypto-Gulenist, let's say, like really hidden ones. So the fact that you may not have Baylok or Bankasya might go against you as well if you are successful and being recommended to so many jobs and this and that. So it can still go against you because then, okay, you are a successful Gulenist, you're just hiding yourself much better than others. It's horrible.
It only shows paranoia of the government. It is so scared that it is afraid of everybody around it, and this is a shame that institutions like Bankasya or schools or universities opened by people affiliated with the Hizmet movement were legal entities in Turkey. None of them were illegal. They were operating within the laws and regulations, rules and regulations of the country. So somebody subscribing to the Zaman newspaper, for example, or somebody having a bank account in Bankasya, or somebody studying or teaching at educational institutions affiliated with the Hizmet movement cannot become a member of any. Just because of that, you cannot say that he is a member of a armed terrorist group or of the Hizmet movement. These were legal entities, and everybody was open. These institutions were open for everybody. Students from all sections of society used to study in Hizmet schools. People of all walks of life used to read Zaman newspaper. So, and when it is legal, you simply cannot come up and say that something that it was illegal. If it was illegal to have an account in Bankasya, why the government opened it? Why did it allow to open it? Why was in a lot of these schools, the minister's children, in fact, President Erdogan's son-in-law, Berat al-Bayrak, himself studied at one of Hizmet school, didn't he?
Yeah, that is the next point, isn't it? Like, for instance, Berat al-Bayrak, Erdogan's son-in-law, has been to Gulen. So if you were to, let's say, apply these criteria, the FETOMETRE, to him, he will have a lot of relatives in the movement, and he will have a lot of friends in the movement. So he will go beyond the threshold and would become a member, and then that would add Erdogan's point, which, because his son-in-law is from the movement, his children have been to schools and the supplementary schools of the movement. He has been to Hizmet movement activities. He probably had Bankasya account, but if not, he was there when they were opening the Bankasya to show support and everything. So he would be Gulen. So it won't leave anyone, because it will add up to the next person as well. But obviously there is a double standard. So it's used as a tool to persecute whoever you want to persecute, and don't apply that to other people whom you don't want to persecute because they are your relatives or they are from your party. You don't apply that to it.
Mm-hmm. So the point is, in any democratic country, you cannot have something called FETOMETRE. You cannot have a tool like that. You cannot simply punish people for being affiliated with a legal entity. That is an important point to highlight here. So yeah,
Yeah.
It's really shameful that it's happening.
Yeah.
So
anyway, there are some, but none of them, except for instance, one of the viewers are saying Gökhan Açıkoğlu was apparently responsible for certain police officers, hence he was working for secret services. But that is not what the government says. Government doesn't hold him anymore accountable, but he was dead in prison cell anyway, so that goes against it.
mm-hmm.
And one of other viewers said, I become potential terrorist because my brother-in-law was a Hizmet movement member. Yeah, that is pretty much what's happening. I think I would at this point apologize from the technical difficulties, out of proportion camera angles and flickering and all that stuff. I'm trying to upgrade and change my system, so it happens to be that there are some parts are failing me, not working as good enough, so I'll have to tweak a couple more things. But I think that brings us to 40-minute limit. We're trying to keep it precise. Is there any final note that you want to add at this point, Behzad? Or
yeah, this is quickly that this isn't a democratic practice. It cannot happen if in any democratic country, if the AKP wants to live up to its promises as they made before coming to power in 2002, they have to get rid of such practices. But of course, they have it's pretty late for them to go back to law now, the rule of law now. It seems very difficult for them to bring back democracy and rule of law in country. So, but yeah, let's see with the coming of the new administration in America, it seems that there will be a certain positive developments across the world, including in Turkey.
I hope so.
Are trying to at least do something to say that they are reforming the country. They are rolling back on the undemocratic practices, but nothing concrete as of now has happened. Let's just see they end this up.
Behzad, I think this is like a monster that, like the Frankenstein monster, that is put together and created to persecute the political dissidents that you don't like, and name them and discredit them and get rid of them and deprive them of many rights. But it may be just like Frankenstein used to persecute the current government once things change in terms of political landscape, and they will probably use all these against the existing AK Party members as well. Most of them would full score top score, and probably will be sacked from their positions and be persecuted. But anyway, all we can do is to highlight a problem for people who doesn't know. Maybe I should do a bit more preparation technically, so provide more evidence as we are talking about that, but maybe we'll do that in the next program. Thank you very much for joining.
Sure.
And have a nice evening, have a nice night to you in India, and we'll see you next week. And please do not forget to comment what else you want us to discuss, so we can actually take that upon and discuss that in the next week as well.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day. Bye.